This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society BC, brought to you by Sitka Game. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. Hey everybody, welcome back to Talk is Sheep. This is a great episode with Kelowna resident Andre Brosseau. He's a member of the Wild Sheep Society BC, a dedicated supporter, and we sit down with Andre to talk about his sheep hunts. Andre achieves his slammer as FNAWS, and we talk about his interest in sheep hunting from the very young age of 16 years old, going on his first sheep hunt basically solo, and just his journey as he goes through life and has achieved eventually his FNAWS. So really enjoyed having Andre on the podcast. He's been a great supporter, and just enjoy his engagement and involvement with the society and all he's done. As we know, the Wild Sheep Society BC is a member-driven organization, and we cannot do what we do without the support of our membership. So, and Andre is a great example of that. A couple things. This past weekend, we drew three of our great raffles, three phenomenal raffles that we had going. First, we drew our Alberta Pronghorn Antelope hunt with Silver Sage Outfitters, Billy Franklin and the crew donating a great hunt there. And the winner was Chaz out of Victoria. So congratulations to Chaz on winning that great hunt. That's a 2025 hunt. We drew our Barney's Ultimate Sheep Camp, again, generously donated by Barney's Sports Chalet, phenomenal supporter of the Wild Sheep Society BC in all that they do. So they, of course, donate the bulk of the gear for that. So the Barney's pack, a bunch of their gear. And basically, you win this pack, you got everything you need to go sheep hunting effectively. And then we also got some great optics there from our good friends at Vortex Canada, a donation through Italian Sporting Goods. Then we also have Tika T3X, donated by Tika, stainless synthetic rifle, 6.5 PRC, so a great rifle there. Sitka has set up everybody with clothing, and Ray Weens Taxidermy with sheep mount for the successful sheep hunters. So just an amazing package, $21,000. And the winner of that was Joel out of Chilliwack, so congratulations to Joel. And then the last prize of our Wild Sheep Raffles was the caribou hunt. And so again, an amazing hunt. This is the first time we worked with Rogue River Outfitters. It's Jim Shockey Adventures. This is Jim's crew, and it's a Yukon Mountain Caribou hunt for 2025. Just a great hunt as well. And Cheryl out of Chetwynd was the winner there. So three great winners. We also launched a couple of new raffles. And the big one that I want to bring everyone's attention to is our Magnificent 7 rides again. And again, generously donated through our industry support, full donation through Precision Optics, along with the support of Gunworks, Fierce, Weatherby, Leica, Zeiss, Leupold, and Revic. We've got 7 incredible rifles. The lineup is insane. The grand prize is a Gunworks Magnus 7 Rem mag. We also have an early bird prize, Fierce Twisted Rogue in 7 mil, Gunworks Climber, second prize, Gunworks Workman 6.5 PRC, his third prize, a Weatherby Model 307 Alpine CT and 6.5 Weatherby RPM. Fifth is a Fierce Carvin Rage 300 PRC. Sixth is a Fierce CT Rogue in 7 mil. So amazing sheep hunting rifles, 7 of them, $80,000 in prizes, give or take. Tickets are $50 a pop. And one thing I will say is, please support us on this. We get the industry support, Precision Optics, and all these donors put this together, and it's a full donation. If we don't get the ROI, it makes it difficult for them to support us. So I know that they want to see some pretty solid numbers, and we want to do our very best to support this raffle. So check it out. It's the Magnificent 7 rides again. The link to the raffles in the show notes, and let's do what we can to support this raffle and make some money for wild sheep conservation. 2 other great raffles that we have on the go as well. We got Leica Sport Optics, a great raffle from our friends over at Leica.
basically $14,000 package. We've got tickets on that. And we have a backcountry backpack raffle. So you can buy tickets on that. We've got 6 premium packs, Exo Mountain Gear, Kafaro, Mystery Ranch, Stone Glaciers, and Sitka Gear. And somebody's going to walk away with an amazing backpack. There's 6 backpacks to be won, and tickets are $20 each for both those. And then we also have a 50-50 on go as well. So we'll draw all 3 of those at our Jurassic Classic in August, and it's a great opportunity to get involved and support wild sheep conservation. So with that, I want to thank everyone for the incredible support, and hope you really enjoy this next podcast with Andre Brosseau. One thing with Andre, we do talk about our horn aging courses. We've got 7 or 8 of them going on across the province. The first one is in Williams Lake this weekend. So if you're available and can make it, come on out. They're absolutely free. In fact, the backpack raffle, we're going to use the proceeds from that to help us cover the costs of these great events. So again, thanks to everyone for all your support, all you do, and enjoy this episode of Talk is Sheep.
This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Frontiersman Gear. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Frontiersman Gear, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems. Well, good afternoon, Andre. Welcome to Talk is Sheep. It's fun to connect this way. We've connected in so many other ways, but it's fun to be on the digital version here. So welcome.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Kyle. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some stories I've had over the years and all my years of hunting, and tell a few lies, maybe
Of
embellish a
course.
little bit. That's typically what I tend to do, but try to give you the straight goods as well.
It's awesome. And, we're really grateful. And, the membership is what drives the Wild Sheep Society BC, and you're a dedicated member. You've been a credible supporter. And, that's really who we are as an organization. It's our membership that, when the magazine comes out, it's our member stories, and yours was. You had a great story in the last one, and hopefully I can get the permission to use your fire ram story for the next one here. So, this is what it's all about. Is we're all just a bunch of regular guys and gals that really care lots about wild sheep and conservation, and to me, that's what makes the Wild Sheep Society BC special. Like we're not influencers, we're not. But what we are doing is moving the needle for wild sheep here in British Columbia, and I love it. And our members are everyone contributes day in and day out to this.
I've been involved in different organizations over the years, not as much in the environmental space, but I have to say that Wild Sheep Society really, especially in BC, takes it to a whole new level. The conservation that you're doing, putting money back in, is absolutely special. And I think, kudos to you and your team for doing it. And the events you put on our first classic. Unfortunately, this year I wasn't able to connect down in Penticton. I was off on a sheep hunt.
That's a good excuse. That's the only excuse.
I know. I think you said that's the only excuse. Well, you were there when I bought it, and I hope my wife doesn't show up here in, because she still doesn't know how much I paid for that sheep trip. She keeps throwing numbers out, and I say, "Yeah, that's about right, honey."
That's always the right answer. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, that's great. Well, that's awesome. And like I said, our members are, and the society, there are a few of us that are, we're in a paid role. We do it day in and day out, and that's kind of the evolution over the last 5 years. Is we just kept growing as an org, and then it was getting to the point where it's like, okay, there's just too much work here, and the volunteers were sort of underwater all the time, and we needed to make a change. But really, at the heart of our organization, that's who we are. We're a volunteer-driven organization, and we're sort of operating at the behest and the generosity of our volunteers, donors, and sponsors that really make a difference. And it's inspiring, like to day in and day out to work with so many caring people that really, really, really care about wild sheep.
Well, one thing I think you've done a really good job on, this is maybe not me not telling stories, is bringing in good guests. And I think you get some first class people in, and I've listened to many of the podcasts, and they're really well put together. And you can tell that, people are just talking from the heart, right?
Mm.
It's not like it's scripted, and they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart, and really want to get that message out about conservation. And I think that's exemplary.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really excited to touch base with you today. And it's funny, we kind of we talked off the air here before,
Yeah,
but we go back a long ways. We think, in theory, we've got some very close mutual friends. Shout out to Owen Philberg in the Bighorn area there, a good
yeah.
mutual friend of ours, and I got lots of hunting stories with Owen, and I know you do too. And it's pretty cool to have that connection from my youth, and I know for you for literally decades.
Yeah, for decades living in Alberta and hunting off that Suffield block in southeastern Alberta for mule deer. And yeah, it was a previous podcast you were talking about having your ranch in the northeast, I guess the northeast corner of the ranch. And I'm like, geez, that sounds really familiar. And I said, did you happen to know the Fieldbergs? And you go, yeah, they were great friends. I said, well, you kept wild Mustangs at your place because that's where they round up all the wild Mustangs before they put the elk in there, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, there was kind of two main areas. There was up a little further west of Buffalo, and then there was one down towards Bindloss there. And basically the military, they basically what happened, the Mustangs were causing so much problem with invasive. They were grazing it, right down to the hard pan. So they
Yeah.
took all those horses, they got them out of there, and it was a real controversial thing. Like I don't know if they could get away with it today. You look at these wild horse issues that they have, and that's actually a great podcast. That now that you mention it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's yeah,
Well, the whole wild horse issue, it's, they're not wild, they're feral.
yeah,
And, that
exactly.
becomes a whole conservation issue around meat horses, let's put it that way. And growing up in
Hmm.
Alberta, had a farm right outside Innisfail, and there were buyers there, right? And there
Hmm.
has to be an outlet for a lot of these animals, and it is controversial for sure. And I can really see people's side. It's like an attachment to it. It's like an attachment to the grizzly bears or the wolves. But that's a rabbit hole. I mean, we you'll never get me off the air when I start going to these. It's about conversation in a balance, a true balance.
Yeah, and that's the key takeaway is the balance. And I think that's what we advocate for. And maybe we're a little biased on the wild sheep side of things, but
For
but that
sure.
said, we get it for sure. And yeah, so yeah, well said about that. Yeah, it's interesting. So they pulled all those horses out of there, and then they brought in elk from the Cypress Hills and did transplants. And of course, there's no natural predators, and then they had an elk problem, and it's like yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we could plan these things a little bit better on how to manage them. But yeah, I don't really know the nuances of those issues in Alberta there, but it definitely was a challenge and still is a challenge for them today. So
Yeah, yeah, because nobody wants to have the elk in their fields grazing, right?
yeah.
So great intentions. Lots of time we'll have people have really good intentions with unintended consequences. And,
Hmm.
and that's typically what happens when, we meddle in too many things sometimes, and we have to really have some forethought. And I think that's where we're moving to, at least a lot of the organizations I see now, we're using our, try to use a scientific mind more. And I see some people doing some great work. The more we can remove the emotion from the issue, the better. But it's
Hmm.
really darn hard, especially as a a sheep hunter, goat hunter. I'm a pretty emotional guy. I'm pretty passionate about what I do and what I pursue and the reasons I do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that you mentioned that. This invasive these elk. I think there was times when my dad would go out and he'd count 700 elk on his wheat field, and it's just like it was just absolutely decimating. Of course, the government would pay compensation, but good luck with that, and it was never what it should be, and just so problematic. But yeah, no, it's definitely challenging. Not an easy job, but you talk back about the science-based wildlife management stuff, and it's like we keep seeing this erosion, right? And that's always something that bothers me a lot. It's like let's stick to the science, but again, it's like, well, what science? Whose science? That's the other side of it too, right? So
That's true. But you know what? There are some positive lights. I see some jurisdictions making some differences now. We take a look at what's happening in Colorado. I think there's been some good feedback there. Alberta, in Canada, I think Alberta is doing actually a pretty good job right now in wildlife management. Um, I think BC could use some improvement on that area right now. Maybe some of the things will float over across those beautiful Rocky Mountains on this side and filter into the water, and someone will drink it and start
yeah,
drinking that
I
Kool-Aid.
I love your optimism. But, that really comes down to, there's some politics there. We're not going to go there. But, we talk about leadership and Todd Lowen, he's Minister of Environment. Maybe that's not his correct title, but he's the minister in charge of wildlife.
Yeah.
And he's a hunter. He was an outfitter. He's obviously no longer attached to his business being in government. But he's super passionate about making sure that the science stays in wildlife and really making a difference. And we just see it time and time again. So, yeah, I think we could learn a few things from that. And I think it really, a lot of credit to Alberta. And I think, again, you could talk the politics side of it, but you talk about one person really focusing on, at least what I think is important in terms of science-based wildlife management. And he's done a pretty good job of that. So,
Well, one person can make a difference.
yeah.
All too often we say, what am I? I'm just one person. I can't make a difference. You can. And if
Mm-hmm.
everybody has that mindset that, yes, I can make a difference, for people who aren't members of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, become a member. The larger the membership grows, the better it is off for all of us. And it's better off for every organization because you have an improved voice the larger you get.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that I will say, and you know this as well as I do, Andre. You've been involved in different organizations over the years. Is that when it comes to having a voice, size matters. So when I show up in Victoria and I try and make an argument for wild sheep or whatever that argument might be, science-based wildlife management, if there's 5,000 people in our group, they're going to listen more than if there's 500 people, and if there's 50,000, they're going to listen even more. It's that numbers do really matter, and it's just for them, it's just numbers. It's like, okay, and really their job is to represent sort of the broadest base of British Columbians. So I get that. So the more people that we have that support the cause, so it can't be understated the importance of buying a membership and supporting the organization, continue to supporting it if we represent the values that sort of, are important to people.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to be using a resource, give back.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, no, well, you're certainly an inspiration on that side of things, but let's dive into sort of the young Andre. Where was it? You mentioned growing up on a farm in Innisfail, and is that where you're interested in hunting and how did you become a sheep hunter? I guess is my question.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, I actually lived in Innisfail for over 20 years at a farm just outside of town there. But I grew up in Edmonton. And, my dad was a big duck hunter. Loved hunting ducks. Like nothing better than getting out in the morning and smelling a shotgun shell. Like that smell of that, that gunpowder as a kid. So he really got me into hunting. And there was always, come fall time, I remember being a really little kid and I'd see the dad would head out. I was probably 5, 6 years old. You'd see the vehicle back up to the garage and there'd be a stack of ducks in there. I don't know what the limit was back then, but I think it was really, really high. Uh, but then my uncles were big game hunters. And I remember my uncle Paul, he was a really big game hunter. And I just loved the idea of hunting big game. And my dad subscribed to Outdoor Life. And I'm sure there's many guys, who are the age of me who used to look at that Outdoor Life magazine page after page after page, and I would fantasize about big game hunting. And I really got into bow hunting. That was my first passion. And actually, the very first deer I got as 14 years old was with a mule deer bow just on the Red Deer River north of Mindloss. So
Really?
yeah, yeah, I remember that was the first and actually the last deer I shot with a bow. So it's been a long time. Missed several since then. But it was more, watching my uncles and my dad actually was really good because he wasn't much of a big game hunter, but he encouraged me and he took me out and he did it with me.
Mm.
I didn't, sheep hunt with him at all. I decided when I was 16, I took the old 1978 Blazer and I convinced a buddy of mine that, hey, we're going to go out to Hinton and we're going to head south to Catamount, and we're going to go hiking and going sheep hunting. I had no idea what the heck, like, I mean, no idea, like none. I don't even know if I could have figured out what was legal. Like I did cut a picture out of the hunting regulations, so I had it. So if I'm looking at this thing, I mean, no spotting scope, just some basic, binoculars, and we hiked in about 3, 4 hours, and we did actually find sheep. Didn't know what to do with it, but we did find sheep. So that was really my first sheep hunt. And I think I was in grade 10, so I'd have been about 16. The next year when I was 17, I decided to do another solo one out in that area, and I went for 5 days just by myself. My mom was really helpful. She helped me make dehydrated food, and
Huh?
I packed in for probably about 2, 3 hours. Didn't see a bloody thing. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys, but I was kind of determined that I want to get, have an opportunity and try this. And I think I was in my final year of grade 12. I went to Canmore because I was always bow hunting, and I grabbed my bow. And you were talking about Grotto Mountain, um, yeah, a few episodes. I can't remember what episode it was. We were talking to someone with the Wild Sheep Society in Alberta. I'm like, oh, I hunted Grotto Mountain. It was November 29th. It was the very end of the season. I stayed at the Alpine Club of Canada, and boy, did I get some strange looks because there I am in Campbell. There's these people, they're hiking poles and their backpacks, and I'm there with a bow. And I just went straight up that mountain, and I saw just a wicked ram, like a beautiful big. And I'm like, oh, this is a cranker. And I snuck in within 40 yards. And I'm like, oh, I could hit him from here. But I'm like, you know what? If I go around this one side, I can be within like 15, 20 yards. So I go sneak around the one side. And just as I'm starting to come over this bit of a ridge, there's a U way up top. And she busted me and they're gone. And I just like, oh, we didn't take that shot. But you know what? You learn. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was the last sheep hunt I did for a long time. I took many years off and I went to university and I took my commerce degree. So in university, I was more concerned about girls, beer, and I was still playing hockey at the time. And it wasn't until I was in my, yeah, I guess it'd be sort of my early 30s, sort of the passion started to ignite a bit. I had a really good friend of mine, Jim Hunter, and he was a taxidermist outside of Innisfail, and he was guiding for a guy up the Klein River. And I had horses, and I decided, I said, Jim, like we can do this. So I borrowed some pack gear, and him and I did that. It was about a 9 hour pack trip in 9 hour. We set up, and you know, we were there a couple days before opening, and we got on rams. And but at
Huh.
that time, we weren't concerned about. We're just looking for legal rams. Like I really didn't know about age or score, like nothing, no clue. I just figured, oh, it'd be really cool to shoot a nice sheep. So yeah, we spotted a legal ram the day before opener and hiked up that hill. And as we're coming up that hill, I'm looking down. We see these other hunters busting up this ridge. I'm like, ah, crap, And I'm sure this happens to lots of people. So we made a prediction of where they're going to get. Ran down the mountain, grabbed the horses, rode about 4K into another bowl. Found them coming down a ridge, and we belly crawled across this flat for about 400 yards. And I'm like, Jim, where's the sheep? He said, I don't know, they gotta be around here somewhere. And all of a sudden I just stick my head up and they're 50 yards away. And
Oh, wow.
they're just coming in a line across, eh? And I'm like, which one do I shoot? Because I don't know much about that. He says, oh, there's that big flare one. There's one that flared way out, but he didn't, wasn't legal, but he's probably a 7-year-old ram. He says, oh, he looked like a doll. And he goes, shoot that last one. Okay. We're 50 yards away, so I shoot and drop this ram. I'm like, wow, I sure hope it's legal. And he does that look, goes, God, so do I. And I'm like, oh, and your heart just totally sinks. And he goes, no, 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 I'm just kidding. It's all good. And it was of course a legal ram, but he just used to do stuff to just, and that was my first ram. And it was a 5-year-old ram. So a young ram, but I didn't know any different. And it really
Right.
was a different time. And now, boy, do we see a lot of changes happening. And I think those changes are really positive.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So you guys rode in and you did the hike. So I guess you had caped, skinned them out, and then hiked back the horses, and then rode back to
Yeah,
camp.
skinned them out, boned them out, hiked back to the horses, threw the meat in, and went back to camp. And I mean, Jim still had Jim had a tag. And the next day we got onto a dandy ram, and he shot over it 3 times.
Oh,
But
really?
we have no rangefinders, like no
Yeah.
range. We were pretty. We didn't have too many nickels to our names. We had horses though, but we had land to put the horses on. I borrowed some packing gear. But he shot over this ram 3 times, and he just misjudged. It was probably only 200 yards, and he figured it was, 350. And ah, stuff happens. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was a great area for hunting sheep. And actually, the next year, that same area, I took my son in for his 15th birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great story. So his 15th birthday, and I'm like, Colby, you want to go on a sheep hunt? He's like, yeah, Dad, that'd be great. But I said, we'll take the horses. It'll be great. But I never told him how far it was. I mean, it's a long ride, so we get there, the night before, stay in the horse trailer, unload, the next day set up the backs or the pack boxes, and we get down the trail, and it's about 2 hours in. He goes, "Are we there yet, Dad?" Like my butt, it's really hurting. I start laughing. I'm like, "Hey, son, like we got at least another 6 hours to go." And he's like, "Oh my." He said some choice words, which he probably shouldn't have said. But we eventually got in there, and I tell you what, that's probably the best sheep hunt I've been on because I was with my son.
Hmm.
And people talk about the biggest trophy they've got, or the biggest ram, the biggest buck, the biggest elk, and I think it's the moments and the memories that you share with a loved one or someone close or a good friend that really makes the hunt. It's not
Uh-huh.
necessarily about the kill shot. But boy, did we have bad weather, and we had snow, like about a foot of snow at the end of August. And I think it was the third day in. We rode about 2.5 hours from camp in the snow, and I got some wonderful pictures and spotted these rams, and we got onto a bit of a knoll and totally exposed. I had my 32 power Weaver scope that with some little shitty little tripod on it, and there's two legal rams there, nice rams, like beauties, but we can only get into a 375 yards. Oh yeah, I bought a rangefinder. So,
That was a good
but
investment. Yeah.
yeah, good investment. I finally bought a rangefinder. I'm like, all right, Colby, they're 375. He's like, geez, Dad, that's so far. I can't hit them from. I said, we shot gophers, little ground squirrels back. And I said, I've seen you hit them at 100 yards. Just a big gopher. Oh, okay, Dad. So, set up the pack. We borrowed actually my buddy Jim's 243 because we didn't have one. So his little 243. And I left my 7 mag back at the camp. So he goes to line up and he goes, Dad, I can't see. What do you mean you can't see? He says, I can't see. I can't see through the scope. Well, if we had so much rain and stuff, I pick up the gun, the scope fogged up.
Uh,
Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm looking through the scope, and I can kind of make, you know what? I can kind of make this ram out. And you can kind of make out its horns because it's a sunny day. I'm like, here, Colby, here's the gun. I said, if you look really close, it's at a 9 power, you'd be able to see those horns. He goes, oh yeah, yeah, I can see it. So just put it right below his head in front of his chest. Because I swear he was going to pull that trigger because he was so excited. So just put it right at the front of his chest and pull. Boom! And you just see snow and rocks fly right from under the front of his chest. I'm like, holy jeez. So it runs another, 25 yards away. And as they do, they just stop and try to figure out where it is. And said, okay, put it right on his backbone. Boom, dumped it. Right
wow.
there. I mean, and he just turned 15 3 days before that, and he nailed a nice 7-year-old, almost full grown ram. Like,
Wow.
what an experience! Absolutely great experience.
Wow. So what was he thinking? Like, what was he like? Did he even understand what he just achieved? I guess he did. He just
No,
rode in 8 hours on horseback. So
well, he does now. Like he's 32, and he goes, I finally really realized what I did.
right.
It's
Yeah.
not many, well, especially back then, not many guys wrote, young guys wrote hunting sheep. And
Right.
I don't think he really appreciated it at that moment. I did. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I was more excited than he was. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, great trip, great time. Grizzly bears in camp. That was a wonderful experience. Chasing grizzlies out of your camp is always fun, especially
Yeah,
with
it makes it.
your kid.
Yeah. So did that kind of get him hooked, or like was he has he kept up, or?
No, he hasn't kept up with the sheep hunting, but he's sure kept up with the deer. Loves
Oh yeah.
that because he lives out in Lloydminster now, and now that I've moved to BC, he's kind of lost his sheep hunting buddy.
Yeah.
And if you don't have somebody to, taking the horses and knowing what to do, yeah, he just hasn't followed through with it. But I got my nephew hooked, so
Nice.
he's 26, so I got to get one of them in the family that's gonna be my sheep hunting buddy. But yeah,
Yeah.
then I moved to then actually the next year I got drawn for cattlemen.
Oh,
I got the cattleman draw up just south of Hinton, and yeah, I was able to get a nice, decent ram out of there, an 8-year-old ram. But again, we were just, it was just, really passable curl. I didn't know anything about big broomed or big heavy. So I'm like, oh, that's a cool looking ram. And, if I know what I know now, I guess I would have been a little bit more selective, but we were just hunting sheep.
Well, and I think it's kind of changed now too because of opportunity, right? Like back in the
Yeah.
day, Cattleman was open and there was just, and then now it's like, oh goodness, like it's hard to get a ram, right? It's hard for guys even to find one. And it's a lot more challenging, I think, than it maybe was 20 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of it is grit. A
Yeah.
lot of people want to be a sheep hunter, and I don't remember the exact Jack O'Connor saying, but your first hunt either makes you a sheep hunter you want to do it for the rest of your life, or you'll never be seen on that godforsaken mountain again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
boy, you understand why.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you get really beaten up sometimes, and those long hunts can be really, they're physically draining,
Hmm.
mentally, boy, you got to be mentally tough sometimes. Like
Yeah.
very tough to push through the pain, the mosquitoes, the bog birch, which is the worst freaking vegetation of all time. That
Yeah.
mosquitoes, and you're pushing through them, and you're going, why am I doing this? And I think every sheep hunter's at some point I keep going, why am I doing this? Like I could be sitting on my couch or hunting deer, they're easy. Why am I? But with great risk comes great reward in a way, and with great pain can come great pleasure. And I think there's something maybe wrong with a lot of us, but um, yeah, I really have. And then yeah, moving to BC, it was a whole new experience. I had sold my business there, started a business up in Kelowna. Spent a lot of time getting that off the ground. Um, but I knew there's this sheep called the stone sheep, which I really didn't know about stone sheep. I was never, intended to be a guy that was, going to go try to get a whole bunch of different types of sheep. I was just wanting to be in the mountain sheep hunting. And eventually I got, business going, got things kind of taken off. And I always swore when I turned 50, I was going to go to the Yukon. Like just that was gonna be my treat to myself. I was going to go to the Yukon and maybe just hunt doll sheep or hunt something just to have that experience. And I didn't go when I was 50. It was 51 COVID COVID hit, and me being a cheap, I mean a frugal guy, not cheap as being frugal, being frugal. I got a call from a friend of mine said, "Hey, you know what? There's some probably pretty good opportunities to go up north." I'm like, "Oh, this is interesting." So yeah, I took that opportunity and ended up connecting with Mervin's Mike Mervin there in Yukon. I think he calls it Yukon Mervin. Mervin's Yukon Outfitting, and went on a doll sheep up there. That was tough. That was tough, but it was a really interesting experience for me because we're using horses, and I get into camp, and it's Mike's daughter. I mean, Tim's daughter, Mike's his cousin. Tim's daughter, Amanda's in there, and her husband. And I had horse experience, so I had so much fun. So I'm saddling horses, I'm putting pack boxes on. So to me, it was just like going out with some friends. And it took 7 days. As end up. It's actually this is a really cool story. Um, and I keep going. You just go on there, you start clicking your watch, and just go, time's up, time.
No, man, that's why you're here. It's a
So
podcaster's dream when he doesn't have to talk.
oh man, yeah, I can just tell stories. Well, Amanda and Brody were great to hunt with, and day one we came upon a really what I thought looked like a really nice ram, but it was early in the hunt, and we didn't it ducked into a big drainage, and we couldn't get a second look at it. And for the next 7 days, we couldn't find a nice. We're looking for a minimum 9-year-old ram. And I think it was on day seven and I had a caribou tag I made a deal to get a caribou tag too. Day seven, we see just a cranker caribou, but we just couldn't catch up to him. And I'm like, dang, when those things move, like you just can't seem to catch up to them.
It's
Like,
crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
oh, like guys say, oh, you can just walk. They're going. Like I've taken a couple caribou before, and you just almost have to intersect them.
Yeah.
So it was day seven. It was September 11th, which I'll never forget. That was my wife's birthday, and I was getting the guilt trip, I'm sure, at home because I wasn't there because I missed a few of her birthdays for hunting trips. We're on top of this mountain. It's about -7. We had about a foot and a half of snow. And I mean, this wind is howling. Like just, it's at least a 30-mile-an-hour wind and you're bundled and everything. And we found this ram and he's a nice ram. This one I end up taking him later. He's a 10-year-old ram. So we end up trying to put a stock on this ram. They're in just a little bit of a basin. We're hands and knees crawling through the snow. We get into about 375 yards, and I look and we can't get any closer. And the crosswind is so strong. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable. I'm not going to take this shot because I'm going to have to guess how far to place this bullet. So I said, you know what? I'm not comfortable doing this. Let's pull out. So we pulled out to come around just straight at him within the wind and got, to about 350 yards and poked the head up and they just happened to bust us and phew, they're gone. So we're sitting there just pretty dejected. They took off and we're dejected and we're just sitting there and kind of licking our wounds for about 10 minutes. All of a sudden I look up and I see this big bull caribou coming across top. And he's just trucking him and another bull are trucking right at us. And I look, I'm like, holy crap, that's that bull from the other day. And I'm like, so I get my gun and I go, Amanda goes, get your gun. Like, let's take him. I go, well, this is great. But I said, can we get him off this mountain? Because we were a 4-hour hike in, and I don't want to carry a caribou 4 hours off of this sketchy mountain. I said, yeah, we can get the horses. Well, he comes within 50 yards, turn broadside, and just pop. And you just see the wind go over him and drops right there. And I'm in shock, and I go, how easy is it going to be? Oh, it's only a 5-hour horseback ride one way, and then we got to go back, but we get the horses up here. And I was like, well, I guess that's going to be fine. But got a great bull, and so we go there, and it's so cold, and take some pictures and say, you know what, guys? I said, well, I'll go see if we can find that ram. And they're like, he's probably gone. I said, I don't know. Like, there's those cliffs over there, and with this wind, he might have just dropped in there. So we actually didn't field dress because it was so cold. I said, let's just leave everything because I didn't want to create scent. Um, so it was about a half mile to those cliffs. We, sneak over there and Brody goes ahead and he's like, they're right there. And he starts pointing down like they're there. And so he's like, take a look and they're about 250 yards down there and he's got the spotter on it. And he's like, oh yeah, that's a good ram. So it's a weird, I don't know if you ever shot in the prone position, but with your head really below you. So I'm in an angle going down and weirdest feeling shooting. And I didn't even adjust my scope. I think it's still set on 4 power. I was so excited and shot and boom, just dumped and over a cliff he went down. And I ended up being a 10-year-old ram.
Wow.
But what a hike out. Oh, that sucked. Yeah, because you're going down that scree and it's steep and you're just sliding the whole way and then you turn around, you got to go back up. And yeah, that was a long hike. We didn't get back in till I think 2 in the morning that day. And Brody hit the wall at one point, and I don't know if you've ever bonked where you hit that wall and his water bottle completely froze. I had some water in mine, and we're laying in these willows, and I remember thinking to myself a weird thought. I said, "Yeah, I see how guys can die on the mountain. Like
Yeah.
you're gassed, like you have
Yeah.
nothing left in the fuel tank, and you're just sitting there, and you're just going, I could just go to sleep right now."
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
tough hunt. You're
That's
put,
a scary feeling when you get like that, isn't it?
yeah, it really is. Like you're done. Like you are
Yeah.
so done. And the only time it's ever happened to me is sheep hunting. And I've had it a few times and I'm learning how to deal with it I tell you one thing I've really found that's been a great help for me, besides constantly eating. And that's one thing I think people don't really understand is the nutrition behind an exertion such as this, because this is high activity sport. Uh,
Hmm.
I think running a marathon would be easy. Not saying
Yeah.
I'd do any record time, but I think that'd be easy compared to doing a pack out, um,
Yeah.
where you're gassed. You have nothing
Yeah.
in the tank. But one thing I discovered a couple of years ago, I hit the wall on another trip and gel packs.
Right.
These little sugar gel packs, take a couple of those within 10 minutes, it's like you're alive.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended
Yeah.
up getting my doll sheep. I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. And I bought a jet boat a few years before, and I had made some great ideas, and I was going to head up north. And I finally convinced somebody to go with me. And well, there's only a couple rivers you can go up,
Yeah.
and everybody goes, well, you can't. So everyone says, well, just say anywhere river. Yeah, okay, we went up anywhere river, turned up over there creek, went up that drainage. Um, and I went with a buddy from the island on short notice, and it was really good to go out. And we never, it was an unsuccessful trip, but it was really successful because we found a great spot, great bulls, and we found lots of rams. But they were just too far off. Um, but we learned a lot about the area. And I
Mm.
think that's, a lot of people, they want to have a successful hunt. And some people I think want to they want to have a picture.
Yeah.
Well, who cares about the picture? The grip and grin. It doesn't really matter. But I think the experience of being in the true wilderness is, I mean, you've been there. Yeah,
Hmm.
all your guests have typically been in there too. It's something very surreal. And you learn a lot about yourself and you learn about other people. If you can spend 10 days in the bush with somebody, you learn a lot about them. And I've been really fortunate. Everybody I've gone in with it's been a great experience. I know some people haven't had such good experiences where they want to, push the guy off the cliff, off the cliff. Um, but yeah, so I was lucky. So the next year I went back. I phoned one of my neighbors about 2 months before I was thinking of maybe going because I hadn't really decided. And I phoned Scott up and Scott, you want to go on a sheep hunt? Yep. I'm like, do you not want to talk to Marlies? No, no, it's all good. I'm in.
Perfect partner, eh?
Holy perfect partner. Well, he's 15, 16. Well, was he 16 years younger than me? So it's kind of nice to have somebody with, I think, fresher legs. Um, but yeah, that was a great. And actually, the one that I wrote the story on, I called it Peekaboo Rams. That's a story I sent you. I think that there's many highlights within that, but the one thing is when you know, we spotted these rams, we snuck in within 15 yards of these darn things,
Wow.
and we're behind this one rock. So I perch over this rock and I kind of got my one foot just in a little teeny toe hold, and I'm looking, and the one ram I sort of identified as being a good ram. Um, he comes right at me, turns his head, it's backwards. I count eight right in the back, but then I second guessed myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because his annuli, like from the outside, were so tough to judge. It was really, really hard to judge them. But when he turned, I could see them from the back. Oh yeah, they were clear. But then I had in my mind, was he really eight? Like, because we'd never counted, I'd never really counted annuli before. So that was,
Right.
even though yes, I may be an experienced hunter and I've taken sheep in Alberta, we never had to count annuli. We were going based upon curl. And I made the decision when here I was going to, hunt on age, not on full curl. And I think some of it is because, what the Wild Sheep Society was putting out and promoting, age, because this guy wasn't full curl. He was
Right.
close, but he wasn't full curl. Um, but yeah, so that was, and then I spotted him the next day, got him on again, and I couldn't get him to turn his head, and watched him for 2 hours. Then he went away, and yeah, then the next day we found that band again. We actually found a band of seven rams and another seven came in. There's probably four legals in there, but this one ram I wanted because he's just gray and old and pot belly, and he's had all the characteristics of an older ram. And finally we got him about 85 yards. He's below us, perfect spot. Got the spotter on him, and he was with his buddy. And frick, his buddy who wasn't quite as nice. I finally got the perfect look at him. Boom, eight. Eight all day long, guaranteed 100% he's eight. And then the other one just happened to turn his head and I got the light just perfect. I could count those annuli at the front. I'm like, done. He's guaranteed eight for sure, for sure, for sure. I think he's nine. So I'm, kind of tired at this time. So I go get a granola bar and a thing of water. And I'm sitting there and poor Scott's losing his mind. Aren't you going to shoot him? I'm like, no, he's not going to go anywhere. He's just going to get up. So I got my gun all set and I'm all relaxed. But boy, as soon as that ram stood up, I was like a puddle a bit and shot him. Boom, down he went. Well, Scott left his 7 millimeter because it's so damn heavy back at camp that day. He'd always said we'd go shoot two. And just before I shot, I said, "You want to take two? This is going to be freaking hell." Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, let's do it. So I handed my gun to him, and that ram was, I don't think it was 75 yards away where it moved. We found him, he shot. So we ended up having two rams down. And yeah, it wasn't much fun. So, we go and the rams are about 70 yards away. So I said, well, let's drag your ram down to mine and we'll get some pictures together, which we did, which was really kind of fun. Until so I go and I'm boning them all out, putting the meat in bags, and I just think this is so hilarious because Scott's all excited about getting all this stuff on. We load his pack up. I don't know, it had to be 85, 90 pounds. I'm thinking, head and meat and everything. So he flicks his pack on. He looks at me and goes, "Oh my God, what have we done?" And I just chuckled and go, "Welcome to sheep hunting, son." Right? Like just yeah. And then we got to go up. But that was a brutal pack out because we had to be 130 plus pounds with everything coming out, and it took us 12 hours. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're kind of beaten up on that one.
Yeah, it's pretty rewarding though, a double header like that and that
Well,
experience and just the camaraderie and it's a lot of work, but it's pretty rewarding.
I don't know if I ever want to do another one again, again though. Maybe there's
Yeah.
three guys. You
Yeah.
you could do a double, but with two, I mean that's I think I'm in pretty good shape and I exercise a lot and I'm pretty prepared for it. But just that sheer like I'm glad we didn't have to really climb out of anything because I don't know if I could have climbed with 120, whatever it was, 130-pound pack. I don't think I could have climbed out of much.
Right. Yeah.
Going down's doable, but going up, it would probably have to be a couple of loads.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, that was quite the hunt. And then I mean, shoot, we went back
So,
next year as well, and yeah,
so before we jump on, how did you figure? So when you jet boated in, obviously had some experience. Like you didn't know the river though, eh? Like that's kind of been always a mystery for me is like how an inexperienced guy figures out the river and how he figures out how to do that.
yeah. You know what? Actually, I talked to a couple of guys who'd been up that river before, and it wasn't really a terrible, but just telling me things to look for. The
Right.
biggest thing I think would be the biggest worry is a log jam. That's
Right.
that's the scariest thing. You get yourself caught into a log jam, and you just always got to be on. You got to be 100% attention. You can't just like the bigger rivers. They're not too bad. Like if you're heading up like the Muskwa or the Liard or the Kachika, when you're on those, they're big rivers. But you get in these smaller tributaries, you got to have your eyes open 100% of the time. And
Right.
when you get stuck in a river, it sucks.
Yeah.
Speaking from experience, it ain't much fun when you,
Yeah.
you got to get off when you're stuck in the middle because you hit a gravel bar. But reading that river and just being patient about things. Going up's easy.
Right.
Coming down, I'm sure you've heard some other guys. That's where you really got to pay attention because you can get in trouble really fast.
Right.
At least going up, you just lay back on the throttle and it's not a big deal. But fuel, like you got to calculate your fuel and have that dialed right in. So I figured out like I had a 200 sport jet. That thing's burning 43 to 46 liters an hour.
Okay.
So you're having to pack a lot of extra fuel. And, when I went to the spot I had last year, there's somebody there. So I'm like, oh crap, I got to go further. So, I had a lot of extra fuel with me. So you got to make sure you bring extra. Um, and just, I don't think it's rocket science navigating a river. Some people make it, I think, seem harder than it is. Just don't get,
Right.
when you get stuck,
Yeah.
that's the worst thing that can possibly happen. Besides a bike.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of those guys too, like especially those guys in the northern communities, they'll run the river and they're caching fuel. They're running fuel up there in the summertime, and so they're pretty. They get all the way up. They go in a long ways up the river and stuff like that. But they've got the luxury of going up, months ahead of time and caching their fuel along the way and everything. So
Yeah, for guys coming out of the south, I mean, it takes 20 hours to get up there to,
yeah.
to launch a boat. I guess guys are, there's really two good launch spots, up the Muskwa. That's probably about, I think that's about 4 hours out of Fort Nelson, and then hitting the Liard, that's about 8 hours out of there. Those are really your entry points on that side. You can go up, underneath Telegraph Creek and other places on the other side in Region 6. Um, but boat access it's interesting jet boat hunting, but you do have a long ways to get it into the Alpine,
Yeah.
and flow planes probably are. You get up a little bit higher, and there's less elevation, to gain if you can get in some of those nice alpine lakes. Um, having a boat, I mean, it's expensive. Yeah, you got to pay for your insurance every year. That's $1,000. You got to pay for your. So when you take the cost of say two guys and going on a float plane, it's almost more economic. It's definitely more economical than having a jet boat, and you probably have
Yeah.
just as much, much success.
Right. Yeah, and it gives you, the big thing, and there's guys that talk about it, their own plane, right? And it's cool. It's got its benefits, but that, it's incredibly expensive for others. But then you got to worry about your airplane for 2 weeks while you're sheep hunting, and that's something to think about too. Like, what do you, and with
Mhm.
you, like when you guys, I guess it's not quite as bad with the jet boat. Like, the grizzly bear's not going to mess your jet boat up more than,
No.
it's pretty hard to do something there. And, probably not likely someone's going to steal it. It's not like there's going to be a high tide or low tide. So, there's, I guess, less risk or less concern with a jet boat than there is with, I don't know if I'd want my own airplane and just feel comfortable leaving it sit there for 2 weeks on its own or 10 days or whatever.
Yeah, you definitely that even leaving my truck and trailer, I
Right.
get nervous about that. I hear all sorts of stories about things happening, and I don't know, is that true or not? I don't know. Or it's urban met, guys trying to say, oh, you don't want to come up here because people are going to vandalize your car or your truck. I just can't guarantee, but real important that you don't hit a rock like I did and come back to the boat. There's 6 inches of water in it, which
No.
yeah, I was pretty nervous. Thank goodness I was only in there for 6 days. If I'd been six more, I'd have been underwater. So
Wow.
yeah, I had to get the whole bottom redone on my boat. It was a pretty good rock.
Wow. So you're able to get out though? You were able to
Yeah,
just just
yeah,
just bailed out. I guess it was a pretty slow leak, obviously.
yeah. It was a pretty slow leak, so it was maybe leaking, a gallon every couple hours. But
Okay.
you're gone for that many days. That sure adds up to a lot of water in your boat.
No doubt. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my big nervous thing on it.
Huh.
But yeah, so I was lucky, there's my stone, and that was really cool. So I ended up getting a stone. That's a whole long story. The next one, I don't want to get into that one. Maybe I'll write that one up too. Yeah, I ended up getting a really dandy stone the next year too. Real
Is
heavy,
that
but
right?
looked like a bighorn.
Huh.
Like I wasn't going to shoot another one, but when I saw that one, I'm like, holy. That's a long story too, but yeah, it might be another. That might be another one. We'll call it the ants in my pants round because I was sitting on the anthill for 2 hours, and I tell you, having ants crawling in your pants and up your back of your head is not a. You have one ant crawling on you, we've got about 100. It's not very comfortable.
No, that's for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of where I got with the stone. And then what was it? You and me were together. I ended up at that Guide and Outfitters Association auction.
Yeah. So I guess what drove you to go there in the first place? Was it that you seen that they had the live auction? You want to go check out the auction? Was that what was driving you? Or?
Well, yeah, I got this idea in my head. Like, all honestly, I don't think I knew of a thing called a slam until probably, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago.
Right.
It just wasn't something I really thought about. And my dad, it was probably 5, 6 years ago, after I got that stone, he goes, geez, you should go get your slam now. And I'm like, oh yeah, there is that thing called the slam. Like, how am I going to do this? Like, that's going to cost me, yeah, a fortune. And it was well, just a little over 2 years ago when my dad, they say about life is fleeting, and poor guy ended up catching pneumonia, and he wasn't going to make it out of the hospital. So I went and flew to Edmonton to go see my dad and have some last words with him, and which was really, a lot of people say it's a horrible experience, but there was two great experiences I would think in my dad's life, and one was the day he was born, you know, incredible experience, and the other experience is the day he died, and I was so fortunate to be with him,
Huh.
on that day that he died, and that was a wonderful experience. I mean, a lot of people may think that's maybe morbid, but I remember my sister and my nieces and nephews there, and they're all kind of crying, and I'm like, guys, this is he's done. He's come to peace with this, and we're gonna have a great experience with him. And so he kicked everybody out because I showed up from Kelowna. He kicked everybody out. He wanted to have the one-on-one with me, and that's really an incredible experience. having a one-on-one with your father for for the last time. And he just told me how proud he was, and wanted to make sure that I made sure everybody knew that he never gave me anything and everything I did was on my own. That was really important to him to tell me that. And then he said, I really want to make sure you take care of Raymond. And that's my nephew. Because my nephew loves hunting, and my dad was his big mentor in his life for hunting.
Huh.
So I said, okay, Dad, I'll take care of Raymond. He goes, if you ever get a chance, you should get your slam. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess there's my permission to go get a slam. And so that kind of sparked on my thought about it. He passed away not too long after that, and but still with a sense of humor because he woke up for a second, he looks at me and my brother-in-law Jimmy goes, am I dead yet? And I go, no, Dad, I've been trying to pillow you for the last hour and a half, but Jim won't let me. Just big smile. Oh, my boy. I mean, that's the last words he said. Hey, am I dead yet? So pretty good sense of humor to the end. So yeah, it wasn't long after. I think it was that March. Yeah, 'cause this was in 2000 and when was the auction? 2003. Yeah, it was 2003. So he passed away in January, and March was the auction or was it February? I'm trying to think of the auction was for the guy.
It was March. Yeah, it was in
So,
March.
so
Yeah.
I got the magazine, they call it the Mountain Hunter, and I saw they're auctioning off a desert sheep hunt. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go check this thing out, and I committed to not drinking for 3 months, which was really tough. January, February, March. So this is all done sober too. So alcohol, booze was not a factor on that one because a lot of things I've done in my life, especially at auctions, booze was a factor. And so yeah, you and I are there, and you were sitting right beside me, and the auction came up for it, and I kind of had a set price in my head, and I went a touch over it, and yeah, I ended up buying that free-range desert sheep hunt. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was the whole reason I guess I did it was more from maybe completing a father's wish because he lived vicariously through me to complete my slam, and I went there, and that's why I missed Penticton this year. I was down with my nephew of all things. I took my nephew Ray
Huh.
with me, and we went and did that desert sheep hunt together.
So, just touching on your dad a little bit,
Yeah,
why, what was the slam to him? Was it just like obviously you talked, he was a bird hunter. He wasn't really a big game guy and wasn't a sheep hunter. So, it's just something he read about in Field and Stream too, and kind of he knew
yeah,
that you were interested in it and he wanted to see that you do it, or
yeah. He really wanted to see me accomplish it.
right.
As he always said, Andre, I live vicariously through you. He said,
Cool.
I was always come and tell him the stories, and I had actually a sheep hunting story published in the Eastman's magazine, and I sent that to him, and he just cherished that thing. He always showed people about his son, the sheep hunter, and he
Uh,
just loved hearing my adventures.
nice.
And he tell him about running into grizzly bears and just those stories. He just loved hearing it. And yeah, I think that's one thing too, is hunters, especially if you had a parent, they enjoy it just as much telling those stories. And sometimes they start to live through you
Right.
and they just
Yeah.
cherish hearing those. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's quite the guy.
So when you achieved your slam then and you got that fourth ram, was it a bit of an emotional experience for you based on sort of, it was kind of your dying dad's wish, if you will, in some
Yeah,
ways, or
yeah, for sure. Like I know as with my nephew's right by my side. And yeah, when I touched off and hit that ram, because it was a very quick kind of had to happen right now. Um, Yeah, I was really emotional.
hmm,
That was a good question to ask too. No, it was really emotional because Ray comes to me and goes, Uncle Andre, you got your slam. Grandpa would love to hear this story.
uh,
Right. So, oh yeah, I had a tear in my eye and it was pretty emotional. It wasn't a breakdown because I've seen some guys who get a ram and they were just puddles. But yeah, there's a bit of a sense of accomplishment on it and a bit of sense of fulfillment.
right.
I never really, if you've asked Andre and his 18, 19-year-old sheep hunting, if you'd ever get the slam, he'd be laughing at you because I wouldn't know what a slam was back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a sense of accomplishment. And, I don't know how many people have gotten slams. I'm sure there's thousands of them. Um, I don't know. I don't know of any. You probably know of a bunch. Um, but my love for hunting and for sheep hunting wasn't about a trophy on the wall. It was truly about the experience and being out there in nature. And I see many individuals who go out there, and maybe it's guys, I should say many. There are definitely individuals go out there to get their slam for the bragging rights. Mine has nothing to do with the bragging rights.
Right.
It's just more of a sense of personal accomplishment. And I love to share my stories.
Right.
And I mean, I got stories about goat hunting and moose hunting, and I just think telling stories hopefully can encourage others to get involved in the sport. And I think the more that we can encourage people to get involved in the sport, the better it is for the protection of the life we appreciate. Right now, here I'm a political soapbox. I feel we're under attack. I
Right.
really think that hunters are quite persecuted. Everything from gun lobbyists to yeah, well, I won't necessarily go down that, but the more that we can encourage and share our stories and our adventures and get other people involved, the better off we are. And we have to be very respectable about the resource we are provided, particularly in BC. We have a wonderful resource here, and we really need to make sure we don't do anything that doesn't piss it all away. And that's by proper management, proper hunter education, making sure we're identifying what we're shooting is of legal age. Um, let's preserve that resource and make sure and one thing that I really like with the wild sheep is doing prescribed burns for habitat improvement, and advocating for bypasses so the sheep can overpasses, pardon me, that sheep can access. Like let's look at what's happening down in radio. It's more bighorn sheep killed in probably a 5 mile stretch that have been shot in the last 2 years by hunters.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
we have to make sure people realize that as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's yeah, quite the hunting stories that I definitely have, and I sure enjoy telling them.
So I got a couple, I guess, questions on for you. So you talk about, it's important that the education and important to keep people interested and share your stories. I actually had how do I do this without airing too much dirty laundry? But I had a member that resigned a while ago saying that, you guys have created so much interest in sheep hunting that there's too many people in the landscape, and that you guys are the problem. You're not the solution, and revoked his membership. So it's kind of, and I explained, and I don't need to explain to you, but I talked a lot about the education, the advocacy. I talked about there's going to be sheep hunters out there whether or not the society exists, right? That's not going to change sheep hunting. Will there be less? I don't think so. I don't think there will be less sheep hunters. But what we advocate for is proper management. We advocate for proper education, making sure that you're taking the right ram, you're taking mature rams. We advocate for habitat enhancement. We advocate for. I think if we went away, if the society disappeared, or the Wild Sheep Foundation or RMGA or whatever, people are still going to be out there hunting. That's not going to change. There's still going to be, I think there'll be just as many hunters, but now we no longer have somebody advocating for the resource. We no longer have somebody providing education on horn aging, on field judging rams, on taking mature animals, educating people on herd dynamics and why it's important that for a variety of reasons why you select the older ram and you don't a whole bunch of things, right? So I don't know. It really bothered me when this guy resigned. I'm like thinking that somehow we're doing worse for the resource than we're helping it. It shocked me.
Kyle, there's always gonna be someone like that.
Right.
It's can be really disheartening. I've worked with some charities, and I'll tell you what I've seen in charities sometimes blows my mind. Right?
Right.
Just
Yeah.
just let me put it that way. It's like, oh my goodness, mismanagement. But anyhow, what I think I would not be too discouraged from your end. It's going to happen.
Right.
There's always some say, well, the more you promote hunting, the less the resource there is for me to go, get an animal. I would say my thought is the biggest culprit out there for people getting involved in more of the let's call it the mountain hunting, be it, sheep, goats, social media.
Right.
Social
Yeah.
media really it doesn't say pushes, but individuals who may just be, a deer hunter or whatever, they go, wow, you know what? I really like to go into that area and get a picture of myself with a ram. And I think social media has probably pushed more hunters and also the manufacturers of mountain equipment. Let's
Hmm.
take,
Yeah.
which they've done a great job in sponsorship and giving back too, but they also want to encourage it to sell the products they provide. And hey, that's fine. But so I think I do believe the more people we have out there, the more people involved, the more funds are going to be put towards it. Because I face it, the government isn't going to help us out putting money into this thing. It's not
Yeah.
going to happen anytime soon, unless
Yeah.
there's some sort of change. Sheep are going to be not recognized, deer aren't going to be recognized. It's not important right now. Fish aren't important right now. So we're the ones who are passionate about this that need to make the bloody difference. And if it
Yeah.
isn't myself, yourself, and the members, nobody's going to do it. We're the
Yeah.
ones that have to do it. Look at what Peter's doing down in the Okanagan with is it the Penticton Indian Band and
Correct. Yeah.
trying to I'm drawing a blank on was it micro what's that
Mycoplasma ovium. Yeah, it's actually Soroptes is the issue.
Soroptes, yeah, the
Bigger
Soroptes.
issue there. Yeah. Yeah.
If it wasn't up for the Wild Sheep Society, this wouldn't happen.
Yeah. 100%.
We'd be losing, would have gone from 1,000 sheep in that area down to 300. And
Yeah.
it isn't going to improve any unless sheep hunters, the guys who go out there and kill these things, are the guys who tend to be the most giving and love these animals the most. I know some people go, you must hate the animals. Are you kidding me? We love them. We're
Hmm.
the first guy. I mean, I remember cutting, deer out of a fence, hung up and stuff. And maybe you've seen it too, where a whitetail goes to jump in deep snow and hooks it back's legs. And I'm the first guy out there with wire cutters cutting that fence to make sure that thing can be released before it gets eaten up. We're the first guys to jump out of the vehicle and help something. Like,
Hmm.
and we're the guys to first jump on the bandwagon and give back. And
Hmm.
we just need to unite together in what you have done in particular under your leadership and having I call it the sheep show. I love the sheep show. You have the convention. It just brings more people in. At least
Hmm.
gets them talking about it. We need to
Hmm.
talk about it.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be stigmatized and marginalized. As a hunter, all too often we're too scared to put a picture on our Facebook because somebody's going to go out there and just beak at us. And why are we afraid of this?
Hmm. Yeah.
Why are we afraid of it? Maybe it's perspective as I get older. I guess I don't care so much what people think about me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
um,
it's being closer to 60 than I am 50 now. That's
couple more for you. I want to touch on. You talked a little bit about that first experience. About you went out. You're literally 16, 17 years old. Load your truck up. You go in for 5 days in the mountains. Like that's pretty ballsy to say the least on your own, first of all,
yeah,
and then to do it when you're at that age, and then and then you said you didn't have your mom helped you with some dehydrated food and stuff. Um, let's talk a little bit about somebody that's thinking, oh, I want to go sheep hunting, but they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. They're like, oh, I can't afford $40,000 worth of gear. Um, you know, your means has changed over the years. You obviously
yeah,
have the ability to do things differently now, but back then you still did it. You were 16 years old,
yeah,
fearless, went out in the wilderness, and so I guess what I'm not advocating here for people to be reckless and stupid, but also not to be afraid or not think that they need, a gun works and they don't need a pair of the latest whatever Sitka gear,
Mhm.
and they don't need the best boots in the market. That, like, of course, be smart and do all the things, and probably it's probably not a bad idea to find somebody to mentor you. That's probably not a
Yeah.
bad idea. But also, don't be sitting at home thinking, "Oh, I can't do this. Sheep hunting's impossible." That's for the Andres of the world. I couldn't do that possibly, because I think you can. And for me, the society, and this wasn't an infomercial, and it's going to sound like it, but that was my connection. I went to the sheep show, or to not the sheep show. I went to the Wild Sheep Society BC show, and I think it was in Kelowna at the time, and I met sheep hunters, and that
Yeah.
changed everything. I'm like, all of a sudden, there's people doing this, and I understood what's involved, and that you don't need to own all this fancy gear, fancy equipment, and you don't even really need to know where to go. Like, go find a map, do your research online. But like, the one thing is if you go to our event, you start talking to people. People are very, like, they're not going to probably give you the X on the map, nor should they. You need to earn that, but they're also going to educate you. They're going to share resources. People are super passionate. Like, look at you. You want to tell your story. You love to talk about sheep hunting. And I guarantee you, if someone called you up in Kelowna, bought you a coffee, they'd probably get a few sheep stories out of you.
Oh, you know what? And I would almost say I don't put X's on the map, but if I had somebody who said, "Hey, Andre, like I've got, this, I got a jet boat, where should I go?" And I could give you, here's some general areas to go. I'm not going to put an X on the map, but I'll make it pretty darn, you should see sheep. And even hiking off the highway, you can definitely hike, so I think for the younger guys, if you can find a mentor, that's great. But if you can't, I wouldn't suggest going solo. Um, I did it. I don't know if I would necessarily suggest it and two reasons. If you get hurt, I mean, back when I went, there was no, there was no spot device to hit a beacon. I was just told my mom I'm roughly going to be about here. Okay, she was fine. They just figured I could take care of myself. But I guess be smart. Carry a spot. If you're going to go solo, carry a spot or some sort of a beacon or Zolo or whatever it is or some in-reach product. Um, so if you do have an issue, you can get help. But going with it I think going with two people is absolutely key because you need. I think it's encouraging. You can push each other as well because there's times you get to that mountain, you're looking and you just need that extra little push to get you up.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody's 17, 18, and they got a buddy who's 19, 20. Go. You don't need the most. Heck, I don't have a Gunworks. I still got my Tika 300 short that I bought 14 years ago it's not an expensive gun, but man, it kills stuff when it hits them. Like,
Yeah.
and it shoots perfectly fine. I hear a lot of guys, well, you need to have this gun, this gun, this gun. Man, my son killed it with a 243, dropped it dead as a stone. Like,
With no scope, basically.
well, with no scope. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally almost with no scope. You don't need a big gun to kill sheep. They're wimps. They're really not very tough. They
Yeah.
topple over pretty easy. We can get into the caliber debates and this and that. You know what? You don't need all that much. You need a good spotter, some sort of spotter, so you can age things properly. It doesn't have to be the most expensive. Yes, it's more expensive stuff. Yes, it's clearer, it's better. Good binos, get some decent binos, decent spotter, some okay rain gear. Heck, go rubber. I used to go in rubber rain gear. Like, yeah, it sucked a bit and you get hot, but you can still get out there and do it.
Yes.
You can still
Yeah.
do it. And if someone doesn't want to get into sheep hunting first, you can try some alpine mule deer, get a feel for sort of the environment you're going to be in. Because within BC, it's a long ways to go. But if someone lives in Fort St. John or up in PG or that region, within 8 hours, you can be hiking into some pretty dandy sheep country,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
spend some time. But yeah, good mentorship. If you can find mentors, um, and there's some organizations that'll do pint nights. There's organizations that'll do a hike or a ruck, and you may not be Wild Sheep Society necessarily sponsored, but there's some other groups that do that as well and get involved. Um, and even on some of I know people have connected through Facebook. They've connected through some of the podcasts as well. Do posts on social media, or someone might be reaching out. Hey, I'm just looking for some advice. There'll always be that one app one person, say one person is going to, snipe at that young person. Heck, we've all been there where we didn't
Hmm.
know anything. And boy, would I have liked to had some advice. 16-year-old Andre would have liked to have someone say, hey, you know what to look for? Right? I'll just wander around looking all over the place, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things I was going to mention is that the society, our board this year, we made a commitment to do a horn aging course in every region across the province.
yeah,
So 1 through 8. And so there's, I guess, nine regions that we're doing horn aging in. We already obviously did the one in Penticton. So that one's, we've ticked the box. And then there's horn aging courses. The first one starts in the first part of May. And we have 8 other ones across the province for the rest of BC. So if anyone's thinking about it, um, go and take that horn aging course. That's a great resource for you. First of all, you're gonna, honestly, with sheep hunting, other than the safety aspect of it, one of the most important things is the field judging, especially stone
yeah,
sheep. If you're gonna go hunt stone sheep, you need to educate yourself on that. Do you need to take a course? Probably not, but you need to do some education on it, whether it be online. There's tons of resources online through our website or other people's websites, but familiar yourself with the BC regulations. But if you come to our course, it's free. So I think, like I said, there's 8 across the province. We're doing one of the first one. The next one's in Williams Lake in May, and then they're all throughout the summer in every region. So there's going to be some within a couple hundred miles of you because we're doing one in every region. So just consider coming out to that. Again, that's a great place to meet people. Um, I think at almost all those, we're going to have 6 or 7 premium packs from the different manufacturers. So we got Sitka Gear, Stone Glacier's got 2 packs. We got a Mystery Ranch pack. We've got a Kifaru pack. And there's one more I'm missing. But regardless, come and try on a bunch of packs. Try out that gear. Taking the horn aging, and it's going to be taught by a professional. It's Bill Jex, Chris Proctor, Morgan Anderson. So great instructors that are really knowledgeable about horn aging, and that's going to set you up really well. But I think the biggest thing for me, Andre, is you meet people there, right? You meet other
yeah,
sheep hunters and have those discussions. Usually we'll have something going on afterwards, whether it be a pint night or something like that. But it's a great opportunity to network and meet people and, have those discussions. So,
yeah. Anything you do to get out and meet other sheep hunters, and I would say sheep hunters are a bit of a special breed. Um, Not a lot of pretentious people is what I've sort of found, and most are really willing to share stories and share and not necessarily share all the information, but share stories, help along, and want to be encouraged. It's a bit of a brotherhood, sisterhood, because there's a lot of women getting into sheep hunting as well. So I don't want to be saying brotherhood, because it's great. And I think it's great to see women involved in hunting. I think that's fantastic. Um,
yeah,
but
it's
yeah, the
awesome.
more you can get involved, it's great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, I know I told you we'd keep it to an hour-ish, and I've blown through that. But before I let you go, what's next? So you got your slam, and I know you're not like ticking boxes. That's not your style. But what's on the agenda? Is there like a must-have hunt that you got that you want to do, or just you planning stones for the fall? What's next?
Yeah, well, actually, I really want to get my hunting partner Scott. He's the guy I keep shooting everything, and he keeps being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Because last year I ended up shooting. I took him went on a caribou hunt, and I ended up getting a dandy goat. Um, he didn't get a caribou, and then we went moose hunting last year, and I was going to actually try to help his dad get a moose, and heck, if I didn't go get the great big moose and those guys shut out. So I'm really going to work on it, try to get, and you got one plan with Scott. Hopefully we can get a caribou draw, I think, this year up in Region 6. Probably go right at the end of August, first bit of September, and try to do a bit of a combo hunt. So hopefully we can maybe get him a caribou, because I've taken 3. So hopefully we can maybe get him a nice caribou in the region I want to go in. I know there's really nice stones in there as well, and there is goats. So I'm kind of hoping we can go in and more focus on him, trying to
Yeah,
get one. I'm not as worried about myself this year. And then I'd like, really, I'd like to get up. I want to get up to the Arctic. I've never been in the Arctic. And
nice.
and I think that's one place I'd like to go, either maybe for musk ox or Barren Grand Caribou, just to see the topography,
Right.
because it's a place I've never been.
Yeah.
And in one of these years, I might go to Newfoundland too. So one thing with hunting is that I see places that nobody else would see.
Yes.
My goal this year is hopefully I can convince my wife Caddy to let me go away on three. I went off three hunting trips last year. Up north, I don't know if I'm going to get away with that again, but I'd love to go in northern BC three trips. Like it's so beautiful up there, and just the scenery and the, oh, except for too many grizzly bears, it's a great place to be. So hopefully I can get up and maybe take my nephew on a goat hunt this year would be good too.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
that's great. Well, sir, I want to thank you for your time today. I appreciate your stories. I am going to bug you to run another story for our next magazine. We'll see where we get with that, and just appreciate this and all the stories and all you do to support the society and being part of our org. We sure appreciate you.
Well, thanks so much for allowing me to participate in what you do. It's wonderful.